Greetings. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Top Gun and what Top Gun possibly has to do with, for our purposes, advertising. We just passed Memorial Day weekend 2022, and this weekend we had the highest grossing box office for any movie over Memorial Day weekend ever, and that was this film on the right, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise. Also, by far the biggest opening weekend of any movie in Tom Cruise's career, and he's been in a lot of big movies over the years. As you're probably aware, Top Gun is a sequel to the original Top Gun that came out in 1986, way back in 1986. That original Top Gun would go on to become the highest grossing film of 1986. Now, will Top Gun Maverick be the highest grossing film of 2022? I don't know. Too soon to know. But I have to admit that I think it's unlikely, given that probably your parents are more interested in this film than you are. And I expect that there will probably be another Marvel movie that'll go on and be the highest grossing of the year. But hey, who knows? Maybe Top Gun Maverick will pull it off. So you may or may not be aware that this film was actually supposed to come out in 2020, but it got delayed because of the pandemic. It's actually been sitting ready to go for 2 years, and they very wisely decided not to release it not only in 2020 when theaters were completely shut down, but in 2021 when people still weren't really going to movies. They held on to it, and Tom Cruise did a lot of touring around to open the film in various places, and apparently it really paid off. Now, one of the things about the movie, if you see it, or if you see the first one and you talk to anyone about the movies, there are a lot of similarities. One of the similarities is that the opening scene from the film, that is Top Gun Maverick, is very similar to the opening scene of the original Top Gun. And I'm going to play you a clip here. So this is the original film directed by Tony Scott. It opens with scenes from an aircraft carrier, and we get a very almost documentary authentic view of what it's like being on top of an aircraft carrier as planes are taking off. And if you listen closely, you can even hear Kenny Loggins singing Danger Zone. So I want you to kind of pay attention to the cinematography here of the planes coming on and off at sunset. It's really picturesque, very cinematic. And of course, it would be impossible to have a scene like this in a movie without cooperation from the Navy, right? They're not going to just let anybody go on a aircraft carrier and point their cameras and get in the way of their F-14s or what have you. It's completely impossible to make a movie like Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick without the cooperation of, in this case, the Navy, or in other movies' cases, the U.S. military. So I want you to pay attention to the cinematography and the sound here, because next up I'm going to show you a Navy ad. I told you this would connect to advertising somehow. A Navy recruiting ad from television from the late 1980s. Okay, so that just ended. So not only is the opening of the 1986 movie very similar to the opening of Top Gun Maverick 2022, but if you were watching TV in the late 80s, there's a good chance you would come across this ad. So listen closely and watch this ad. Now, the music is going to sound very similar. The images, of course, are very similar. I don't know if it's daybreak or sunset, but lots of shots, various different angles from on top of an aircraft carrier. And the music even sounds similar. Similar, but not the same. That is not actually Kenny Loggins playing Danger Zone. It is an original song made to sound very much like
to reach for something bigger, to master a more challenging world, to feel the confidence and pride of knowing who you are, what you can do. Show the world your U.S. Navy. Live the adventure. Call 1-800-327-NAVY.
Okay, so the truth is that not only was Top Gun 1986 extremely successful as a Hollywood movie, it was also extremely successful as an advertisement for the Navy. The Navy ended up actually in many places having recruitment stands and recruitment officers outside of the movie theaters. And in fact, I've heard that this is happening again with Top Gun Maverick, not just the Navy, but the Air Force also. And so there's a way in which Top Gun in movies like that work as advertisements, in that they promote a way of thinking about the military, about life as in the case of Top Gun, fighter pilot. And so we shouldn't be entirely surprised when maybe we see an advertisement that's explicitly for the Navy like this, that's very much like the film itself. Okay, so I wanted to mention there's an opinion piece that just came out in the Los Angeles Times in the last day or two by Roger Stahl. And Roger Stahl is a professor at the University of Georgia, and he studies, amongst other things, he studies how the U.S. military and the Pentagon, what relationships they have with the U.S. military. And he notes that all the branches of the military actually have offices on Wilshire Boulevard in the heart of Hollywood to work closely with the movie studios. And I recommend, if you're interested, you look up this piece. I'll provide a link to it as well, because he talks about the history and, in fact, how with the original Top Gun, the Navy and the Pentagon more broadly really thought that this film did an excellent job of recuperating the military's image at a time, even in the mid-'80s, where there was still a lot of negative thinking about the role of the military after the Vietnam War. So now we have Top Gun Maverick, again, an example of the Navy working closely with the entertainment industry because it makes sense for them. Not because they need money from the entertainment industry, but because it works as very effective, let's face it, propaganda, to persuade us to think about the military in particular ways. And the truth is that those offices that exist on Wilshire Boulevard in Hollywood, what they do is they review and they approve scripts. And if they don't like what's in a movie, they will refuse to allow the studios or the producers to have access to the equipment they need, like jet fighters or aircraft carriers or what have you. Now, to bring it back to the 1980s and another example of advertising, I'm going to show you, here's another way in which advertising can reach you when you might not expect it. This is an advertisement that originally was placed at the very beginning of the Top Gun VHS videotapes that were for sale. I guess it would have been probably late 1986 or maybe even early 1987 when these became available. So, you know, when you go and you buy a movie, it's kind of annoying that you'd have to watch an advertisement. You know, we're used to seeing those things on TV, but when we buy a movie or even go to the movies and we've paid for a ticket, we don't expect to see that. What you're going to see in this clip is, well, a couple of things. One, you're going to see how it shamelessly rips off a scene in Top Gun in a rather silly way. But another thing I want you to pay attention to is how the planes are very different and not at all like the planes that we saw either in the Top Gun opening or in that Navy recruitment.
Den Mother, this is X-Ray Tango 127. We're at Angels 11, bearing 090, over.
Nice going, Mustang. Maneuvers completed. Relax and have one on me.
Roger, Den Mother.
So, the truth is that, yes, jet fighters do not have Diet Pepsi.
Problem, Mustang?
No problem.
Trouble with your refreshment system?
Negative.
So this is the part where they recreate a scene from Top Gun.
Where is he? Hi, boys.
And in fact,
There's one Diet Cola with a taste that's turning the world upside down. Diet Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
Top Gun Maverick 2, where he flies inverted over him. So the thing that I wanted you to actually notice, besides the overall silliness of this commercial, is the planes. So those planes are not the F-14s or the F-18s. They are what you can get if you have to go to private industry to rent planes, because the Navy had no incentive to give Pepsi F-14s or aircraft carriers or anything like that to make their commercial. So Pepsi had to go out and just rent those, and that's the best that they could come up with. So when we see little differences like that in commercials versus movies, we might not know what's going on. The truth is there's different motives for the military to get involved in movie making than simply making a commercial. And Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick aren't simply commercials, but they do have lots of values associated with them. And as we'll see when we talk more about advertising, really that's what advertising is about: connecting brands and products with values associated with other properties or experiences or other things that exist in people's lives that already are out there outside of advertising.